Staying in contact. I'm London Mitchell. In these weekly discussions, we focus on efforts to improve the quality of life here in our community of Northwest Ohio. And for the more than 30 years I've been producing this program, we have chatted with civic leaders, politicians, advocates, and authors. This week, we highlight the work of the Sight Center of Northwest Ohio. Located in Toledo, the Sight Center serves 18 counties in Northwest Ohio. October is Blindness Awareness Month, a time to recognize the blind and the visually impaired community and raise awareness about blindness and vision impairment. My guest is the Sight Center's Executive Director, Tim Tegge.
To me, that celebrating Blindness Awareness Month has multiple purposes. One is to bring awareness to people who aren't familiar with blindness about what it's like to live with blindness, some of the resources that are available, some of the accomplishments of people who are blind, maybe addressing some misconceptions and perceptions that are maybe not correct. I think the other is to remind people who do live with blindness just how unique they are and in dealing with a disability, how that changes you and how it shapes you to become, the person that you are today. So I think there's multiple reasons to celebrate the, the accomplishments of people who are blind, to celebrate some of the tools like the white cane and what it means. And just to have that conversation, at least, in a special time of the year.
Is there one preconceived notion that we have about blindness that really needs to be addressed?
The thing that I've heard from many people is the fear of losing vision is greater than even the fear of getting cancer. And I think, that's something that it seems to be a reality, but I also think that it's an opportunity to remind people, and I would say all people who aren't blind or people who might be losing their vision, that even though something is diminishing, it doesn't mean that everything is just a negative. That in the diminishing of eyesight, something else will emerge. Other strengths emerge, other interests emerge, other things emerge that you might find more beautiful or more interesting than before. Not that it's an awesome thing necessarily to lose vision, but that to keep in mind that there are things that are happening sometimes we're not even aware of to ourselves that are growing stronger.
I would imagine that anyone who has limited sight or is blind still wants to feel a part of the community, still wants to have total access to social activities, housing, employment.
Exactly. And I would say information as well. The more we are driven to, online information, if things like websites aren't created properly, then there's just whole dead ends of information that we wouldn't have access to. I think the community at large would, benefit from learning more about people who are living wonderful lives with blindness, and get to know them a little more, or understand how they navigate their day, because I think that's probably one of the biggest conceptions that we run into is, boy, if I was blind, how would I do A, B, or C throughout the day? And the Sight Center's here to help people learn to do the things from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed without the vision that they might be used to. And there are ways to do things. There are ways to to cook, to clean, to manage medications, to be employed, to travel. There's ways to do that. And to me, that's part of what the Sight Center is here for, and part of what Blindness Awareness Month is about.
It would seem to me that that is an awesome responsibility, and yet we should be thankful to have the Sight Center in our community. I believe you serve 18 counties in Northwest Ohio to help people learn how to navigate, especially if they're losing their sight after they've lived into adulthood, for example.
Yeah, in fact, there are only three agencies like ours in the state, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Toledo, covering the Northwest Ohio area. Not even Columbus has a center like ours. We actually provide some services through a staff person down in the central part of the state, but they don't have a comprehensive agency like ours providing those services. I think when you mentioned the responsibility, I think it is a huge responsibility. And as you know, we've celebrated our 100th anniversary a couple of years ago. We're still reaping the fruits of that. And to me, it's the responsibility of a mission statement. And our mission is to empower independence and enrich the lives of people who are blind or visually impaired. I think throughout our history, sometimes we've focused more on maybe the enriching lives. At other times, it's been more on empowering independence, and there's times where it's a good blend of both. But a lot of it's dependent upon where society is, what the needs are, what the resources are. But that mission has carried us for over 100 years now.
I'm London Mitchell. We are in contact today with Tim Tegge, Executive Director of the Sight Center of Northwest Ohio. October is Blindness Awareness Month. We often take our ability to see for granted, but we do need to protect our eyesight. Right, Tim?
Yeah, I think there's a number of best practices, and I would say one of those best practices, and this would go for anyone, even people who are totally blind, is to go to an eye doctor. Go to your regular optometrist exams once a year. Where the Sight Center focuses on low vision and how to get the most out of remaining vision. Your optometrists and your retinal specialists and ophthalmologists, they focus on keeping your eyes healthy, making sure that there's nothing that's emerging that is of concern, and of course, keeping prescriptions up to date. But I think that's important. One of the best practices is just to make sure that nothing is emerging in the background that's going to lead to some permanent damage. And of course, things like ultraviolet light, just being protective of our eyes throughout a lifetime. Those are some best practices as well.
You referenced earlier in our conversation the white cane. There's some significance to having a white cane.
Yeah, the white cane is the name that is attributed to the traditional cane used by people who are blind. It didn't used to be a white cane, but a century ago it was often a wooden cane, but it was adopted. The white cane that we see today with the black handle, the white shaft, and the red tip at the end, that's kind of the international symbol for not symbol, it's the international tool for people who are blind. And on October 15th, we recognized White Cane Awareness Day, and that in particular has some legal implications in terms of the people who drive a vehicle do have a legal responsibility to stop for someone crossing a street with a white cane, and that can be anywhere that they're crossing the street. It's the driver who has to be aware and to stop for pedestrians using a white cane. That's kind of the vehicular implications of it, but the other part of that day and the tool itself is to demonstrate how it can be used by people all around the world to navigate safely. To people throughout the world travel to work every day, they commute, they go shopping, they navigate their neighborhoods, and with the white cane, it's a great way for people who don't have vision to safely move about their community, their neighborhood, and to identify their world and navigating that world in a little different way than what most people are used to.
Your site center is not a government agency. You're operating pretty much on donations, grants, correct?
Correct. We're a nonprofit 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization. We've been that way for 100 years, and we do provide services that we have a good relationship with the state agency, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. But what we do has always been dependent upon the community support. I was recently thinking about this, that if the work we did was profitable in the commerce sense, then it wouldn't take a nonprofit to do this work for 100 years. There would be entities that are providing this service for a profit or that service. They would see it as a business opportunity. And the fact that we've been doing it for 100 years, blindness and low vision rehabilitation is not something that, in the traditional sense would be profitable. So we do have a good business model. We have diversified services. But at the end of the day, we're here 102 years after our founding because the community continues to support the work we do. And I think it's important because it seems like more than ever, everybody seems to know someone in their life who is losing their vision or has a vision impairment, whether it's macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy or any other number of conditions. But typically somebody knows another person that's living with it. And I think that makes a difference in how they view the services that we provide.
So if you're making a cold call on a business looking for support for a grant, what would you tell that business person?
I would probably start with what I just mentioned there, that I would bet that nearly everybody in your workplace knows someone, maybe someone even in their own family, a mother, a father, a grandparent, a neighbor who is experiencing permanent vision loss and all that implies. And I would start there and, the relevance of it. I would also emphasize that insurance doesn't cover the work that we do. The insurance might cover a part of an eye exam, but somebody could lose their vision to a stroke, and there's no white cane training that's provided as a result of that. So the vast majority of our services are not covered by insurance. And so we have to, traditionally just create a whole nother portfolio of ways to make services available to people. Because a lot of times people who are losing their vision are also struggling with employment or the loss of employment. So the fact that our services are available, no matter what someone's ability to pay for them is, that's important to us and important to our mission.
October is also Disabilities Employment Awareness Month, but I would imagine there are still a lot of employers out there who are a little bit nervous about hiring someone with a disability because of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the expense that might go along with making accommodations for an employee with a disability.
I am sure that there are situations out there, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty or unknown, and that's unfortunate when that happens, because I think it's crucial for not only the employer but the person seeking employment, that they see the disability as not the primary thing, but what are the abilities that are emerging as a result of the disability. And I bring that up because I think that so many people I know who struggle with vision impairment, can't drive, other challenges that they overcome. They have, great empathy, good listening skills, often a really good memory because you have to remember phone numbers instead of just visually referring to them. Some persistence, how to solve this problem or get this thing done without the vision that I'm used to. So those types of things. And I think about what employer wouldn't want somebody with good listening skills, with some persistence, some tenacity, some grit, might have a good memory or some good problem solving skills. Those are some valuable skills in the workplace. And I think a lot of employers, I would imagine a lot of people just look at, oh, how sad it is that somebody's losing their vision. And they let that maybe lead their thinking rather than to think what could this person bring to my team that's unique. And I bring that up I catch more typos day after day. I get emails, I see websites. There are so many typos out there that I catch with my ears that professional organizations are not catching with their staff. And I've got numerous examples of that where the screen reading software I use, as soon as it encounters a misspelled word, it pronounces it in a misspelled way. And so sometimes the eyes overlook those, but the ears hear it differently. And that's just a simple example of something that, can be brought to a workplace.
So we really want to focus on the individual and what the individual can bring to the table, as opposed to letting the disability define that person.
Exactly. And I think your initial question also, to help in whatever ways we can, whether, speaking to groups of employers or individually, is to remind them of those things and to not look at the fear of cost of accommodations. I think to look at, am I getting a good employee? What are the tools you would give any employee? You want to hire somebody. What are the tools that they would need? And just see it as these are the tools that this person needs to do a really good job for me.
Tim Tegge is the executive director of the Sight Center of Northwest Ohio. Any final thoughts, Tim?
I think it's important that people who are experiencing in vision loss or any type of disability, that they also look beyond the disability. And I've had 50 years to get used to my own, so it's easy for me to say that. It's a lot harder when somebody's experiencing it for the first time. But I do think it's important to not see yourself as broken or as less than something. I think that's really important to get through that, to work through that process. But at the end of the day, to say, I have something special to offer, no matter whether I can see or whether I can't see, I have something unique, and to celebrate that. And maybe at the end of the day, that's what Blindness Awareness Month is, and why we say that we celebrate it.
Thanks, Tim. And that's our program for this week. Please accept this invitation to join us again next week as we continue staying in contact. In the meantime, I'd love to hear from you via email. Find me at londonmitchell.news and on Blue Sky.